emergency.
Firefighters were called to the Lincoln Motel on Lincoln Highway around 2:30 a.m. and arrived to heavy smoke and flames. Guests at the motel said they woke up to the sound of fire alarms and screaming.
I've seen victims of fire, but never saw a person that was intentionally set on fire. It's a horrific scene.
It's just tragic. The poor lady did not deserve to die this way.
The most significant part in this was surveillance video.
We switched our gears from baseline fire to criminal investigation.
It did shake people's sense of fear of that there's somebody that could actually do something like that to someone.
She gets caught in that fire, you get caught in that fire, you get out and see others.
I honestly don't think there's any retribution for a person to do this to another person.
This was absolutely a premeditated crime. She knew that if she didn't get away from him, something bad at some point would happen.
In the early hours of the morning on May 15, 2016, the local police department in Bensalem, Pennsylvania, received a distressing 911 call from the Lincoln Motel.
Hello? Is there a fire in the building?
Yes.
Okay, are you at the Lincoln Motel?
Yes. The guy is on fire in the room. He's on fire. 103. Hello. Everybody
A 911 call from the Lincoln Motel is not really that unusual. What is unusual is that sometimes these calls come in and you almost instantly know that it's a big job, it's something really important, and most officers just start going there automatically.
The guy is in the room.
Well, I just heard him yelling, and then I had the cleaning person open up the door, the bed was on fire, and he's screaming.
Okay, is he out of the room or is he still in the room?
No, I don't know, sir. I don't know.
Upon our arrival, we were able to determine that there was a hotel fire in the front of the building. It was either room 103 or 104. By looking in the windows as we were trying to evacuate people out of the hotel, we were able to see from outside that a body was on fire in one of those rooms.
It's a two-story motel. It's got about 20 rooms on the first floor and about 20 rooms on the second floor. The fire was contained to the first floor, but the smoke was banked down to the floor. You could not see your hand in front of your face. And there were numerous people having problems getting out. They were crawling out of the building. They couldn't see. And the firefighters went interior with a hose line and attempted to search and rescue.
We're just yelling and banging on doors trying to get as many people as possible.
They assisted numerous people out of the building through windows all through the hallway, and then they found the one subject deceased.
Police say the fire was under control in about 30 minutes. One person was discovered dead inside the motel, and several people had to be rescued from the second floor. Police say some guests were taken to Aria Torresdale for smoke inhalation. One guest says he heard someone screaming for help as he made his way out of the building.
We're coming into the backside of the Lincoln Motel. Room 103 is on the north side of the hotel, which is one of the rooms right here. I believe it's third or fourth window in. When the fire occurred, this is the first access that people came to. This is where the fire company accessed some of the room, broke the windows. This is the main office. At the time of the crime, it was a motel, so I guess it's a hotel now, but it was always a motel. Once we determined that there was a body, a fire scene itself, it's automatically handled as if it's a crime scene. Whether we know that it's an accident or we don't right away, we don't take any chances of something that we didn't expect popping up on us. We like to handle it right off the bat as a crime scene and cordon everything off so we don't lose anything.
The first task for responders at the scene is to try and identify this victim.
When we start doing the crime scene, the problem was it was under debris. The walls had been on fire, the bedding was on fire. The fire company come in, you're talking thousands of gallons of water dumping into a scene. So we weren't able to 100% identify quickly, but when it came time to finding out who rented the room, the Lincoln Motel has always been a pretty cooperative place. We've never really had any issues with them when it came to crime. They've always been pretty helpful. They were very helpful with that.
Fairly quickly, Officer Mee was able to provide information that the room was registered to a female.
The victim is identified as 46-year-old Melissa Bacon Smith.
During the investigation, we talked to many people that knew Melissa. She was described as a very hardworking lady. Everybody liked her. She had a daughter. She came to work early in the morning. She stayed a long tour. She was sometimes with double shifts, and she was just a generally nice person. And everybody that came in contact with liked her.
Police then continue their initial investigation into the fire, discovering troubling information about Melissa's final moments alive.
We took a quick survey of the room where the origin of the fire was, took some quick photos to make sure that we documented it, make sure nothing changed, and if something did change, we would know that it was changed. Then we start surveying the rest of the area to make sure that there wasn't anything residual going on that we weren't aware of right off the bat.
The motel unit that was on fire, there was a lot of damage to that room. Our victim, however, was not in that room. Our victim was in a room across the hall, laying on the ground. There was no fire damage in that unit. There was a lot of smoke damage, a lot of heat damage, but there was no fire damage. For me, I know at that point in time, she was alive at the time of the fire. She left the room that she was in and she went across the hallway. I also found the bathtub running in room 103. So I know somebody turned that water on. I was thinking that somebody was trying to put the fire out.
It appears that she had went into the bathroom and tried to put herself out because the shower curtain was burnt. The flames on her body, the burns on her body show that everything was going up. More than likely, she was able to extinguish the flames, but the building was on fire. So not only did she put herself out, but everything around her was still on fire and superheated. Now everybody's out of the hotel. She's in there still alone. We assume that she tries to leave, but she's so disoriented and you can't see that she basically just walks over into the room across the hall, and that's where she finally succumbs to her injuries and collapses right there.
As police look into Melissa's death, two important questions arise. How did the fire start? And why was she the only person at the motel so severely burned?
One of the big challenges we have with fires is it's very destructive.
The first thing that has to take priority is the firefighting efforts to put out the fire to protect human life. And in a hotel or a motel, like this case, a motel, where there's other occupants, the firefighting efforts take priority. So already you're degrading evidence in order to try to save lives.
When it comes to fingerprints or DNA, it's very difficult to collect these items and get the type of evidence that we're used to when there's no fire involved.
But there was something about the fire at the Lincoln Motel that made investigators think this was no accident.
We had a smell of gasoline coming from the room. You could smell the gasoline coming off her clothing.
It's not normal to smell gasoline on someone. It'd be different if you were in an auto body shop or if you were in a warehouse, but in a motel at 2 a.m., it's not a normal smell. So this kind of leads us down the path that an accelerant was used.
But who had used an accelerant to start the fire at the Lincoln Motel? And was Melissa Bacon Smith's death an accident or murder?
Now back here live at the Lincoln Motel, you can see a number of broken broken windows, lots of broken glass around from where firefighters had to enter the building this morning. Now, there are a number of businesses in the area, and Bensalem police spent the morning visiting each of them to see if they have any surveillance video that may help in the investigation. There are cameras here at the motel, and they are taking that footage into evidence as well. We are still waiting to learn the identity of both the victim.
All the news media outlets were there while we were, investigating the fire itself. You got to remember, this is a major thoroughfare. This is a 6-lane highway, 3 lanes each direction. When you shut that down, I don't care whether it's in the middle of the day, on a weekday, or even a weekend, when you shut down one side of that 100%, you're backing traffic up for miles. So it caused a lot of attention for all kinds of reasons.
Investigators at the scene of the Lincoln Motel fire are determining whether arson was the cause of the blaze.
I need to eliminate electrical. I got to eliminate cooking. I got to eliminate natural causes like lightning. We have to eliminate all other causes before we mix up an arson. I requested that we would have the arson canine dog, accelerant dog from Philadelphia, come up to the scene and go through the scene to see if there's any accelerants used. So the canine dog hit in 2 different locations, once in the room of origin and once where the victim's body was found. We collected the evidence. It was samples on the bed, it was samples off the victim's body, and it was samples adjacent to the bed.
It does not take long for investigators to identify the cause of the fire.
An accelerant was used, and this was an actual arson homicide.
So the first thing we did was try to contain everybody that was on scene. Make sure nobody left. Because you never know who saw what.
In this particular case, the forensics was an important part, but it wasn't the only part. As a matter of fact, the most significant part in this was surveillance video. There was no surveillance video inside of the room, but the hallway in the motel had surveillance video.
One of the employees at the Lincoln Motel gives investigators a strong lead.
Very quickly on into the investigation, we were aware that one person in particular had left the room just before the fire. So we knew that it was a black male and he was wearing certain type of clothing. We had an eyewitness that said they saw this person leaving the scene.
The housekeeper for the motel saw him walking out of the room and just leave. Had no conversation with him, didn't say anything. A short time later, minutes, she hears some screaming, she smells some smoke, and the room is on fire.
The fire was in room 103 right off the bat. So we knew that it was in that room and not any other rooms.
The guy is on fire in the room. He's on fire. Hello, everybody else.
We were able to determine exact time that the individual left the room, entered the room, rented the room.
As police uncover new details about this possible suspect, they receive another 911 call.
Bucks County 911 system received a phone call from a female that reported herself to be the sister of the possible actor. She reported that her brother had just called her and told her that he had just set his girlfriend on fire. She identified her brother as being Kevin Small. I was able to get a hold of her phone number, call her back, and speak to her. And she had told me that very shortly between her first phone call and me calling her, that he had called her again. And he told her that he was walking down US Route 1. I was able to get on to the radio, tell other patrol officers there that our suspect may be walking southbound on Route 1.
Bensalem police begin a hunt for Kevin Small, the man they now believe to be the center of their investigation into the death of Melissa Bacon Smith.
I kept canvassing the area, Route 1 up and down, stopping anyone I could find. We're looking for anything suspicious, anyone running, anyone trying to hide.
They noticed a male trying to hide from police cars. He had the smell of gasoline coming from him, and the skin was slipping and kind of hanging off of his arms. They start to realize that this is the guy. This is US Route 1. This is the road that the suspect, Kevin Small, fled on afterwards. He walked down the northbound lanes, but currently traveling southbound. And he walked down the northbound lanes on the shoulder from what we believe all the way down to this approaching red light right here.
It doesn't take long for officers to receive a report of a confirmed sighting of Kevin Small.
Philadelphia Police Department had a suspect fit in the description of Kevin Small at the intersection of Byberry and Route 1. I petitioned with my sergeant, since we had everything under control on scene, that I leave with my K-9 and I take another officer with me, and we go to investigate this possible sighting and maybe question him. As I was coming northbound back to the fire, I noticed a male figure hiding behind a bus structure. As I passed or got close, to me it looked like he was trying to hide from me, evade me. I couldn't barely see him because he was on the other side of a rectangular bus structure. I knew he was on the phone. I heard him talking to someone, and it was just me and him in the area. Now, I was unable to figure out if he was armed or a threat. I didn't even know who he was at first. As soon as I identified myself, this male figure stopped. He froze. He didn't want to turn around, but he didn't take off running. He didn't know what to do. It just, time really slowed down for me, and I think him as well.
They start talking to him, and when they started talking to him, they noticed that he had severe second-degree burns on his both of his arms up to his elbows. How many people are walking down the highway at 1 o'clock, 1:30 in the morning with severe burns on their arms? While they were trying to determine his name and his identity, he was on the phone. For some reason or other, he handed our patrol officer the phone.
I spoke with a female on the phone and asked who she was. She identified herself. I didn't catch the name, but I did ask who she was talking to on the other line. And she identified Kevin Small. So then I knew I had the guy I was looking for.
At that point in time, he was actually on parole from some previous drug crimes. And where he was found on the corner was across the street from where he was living. It's a secured facility for parolees, which allowed him to work during the day, and in the evenings he had to come back and be locked down.
Before police question Kevin Small about the fire and Melissa's death, they bring him to the hospital to have his burns treated.
We went to Jefferson Torresdale Hospital. We were there for 2 or 3 hours with him, so they treated his burns on his right hand. Thankfully, his injuries weren't that severe that it didn't require him to stay overnight. He was in custody at this point, so we didn't Mirandize him, so I couldn't question Mr. Small, neither could Officer Crozier. But he did make several statements throughout the course of those couple hours we were there. He mentioned that he really screwed up this time. This wasn't his first rodeo, that he's been in and out of jail. His mom's going to be extremely disappointed, and that he really f***ed up this time.
Details of Kevin Small's relationship with Melissa Bacon Smith also begin to emerge.
During the investigation, we were able to talk to family members, co-workers of Melissa Bacon, and we found out that Kevin and Melissa had been together for several months, but her co-workers had let us know that there had always been a underlying current of control on Kevin's part, to the point where even her friends were telling her, you got to get away from this guy. So she realized that, and that, from what we were understand and told by her family and co-workers, that was what she was trying to do. She was trying to get away from him. The night that this all transpired, they were seen in the bar of a neighboring motel, and Melissa had gotten up to play pool. Well, while she was playing pool, they said you could see that Kevin was very visibly annoyed that she was not paying attention to him. He was a control freak, and that he wanted her to do what he wanted her to do, when he wanted to do. He wanted her to be his, and that was it.
All the evidence pointed to Kevin Small.
Police just wrapped up their investigation here at the Lincoln Motel. They were here for almost 8 hours after they were called here for this deadly fire. Police say one person is dead and one person is in custody. No word yet on any charges for that suspect. Investigators spent the morning trying to piece together how this fire started.
Myself and Bucks County Detective Martin McDonough interviewed him at police headquarters.
How did that fire start?
I don't know how the fire started.
I think you do.
All right.
Straight up. How did it start?
I don't remember.
Okay. You're taking baby steps, and that's good. You got to tell us what happened in that room.
During the interview, he expressed to us that how much he loved her and that she wasn't taking him serious and that he was trying to make a nice night for her and him to enjoy each other's company. And everything that he did, he did wrong. He initially wanted to get a hotel room at a different hotel where they would normally go. They had apparently been seeing each other for several months. He waited too long and wasn't able to get a room there. They were all sold out. So he got one at the Lincoln Motel.
Now, I finally get a light where it's not in her face. But that light, that making noise, that bathroom light. I said, oh, look at this. It's not in her face now. She was bothering her now. Okay. But was for the vet. Oh, my God. Oh, you know, he's some ass. He's getting mad about that.
And he said that just everything he did just got on her nerves, and he was trying everything he could to make her happy, and it just wasn't working.
I don't know. Hey, listen, I don't know, you got all the time or whatever. I'm just saying, you know, people lose it, man. You know, I don't care, you know, whether you with Irish or whatever, it doesn't matter. So you can lose it, man. You know what I'm saying? What the I didn't say I'm perfect. I know I ain't perfect. But what the what did you do like this?
You lost it, though, didn't you?
I think I did.
When you lost it, what did you do?
I'm black.
What happened when you lost it?
I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I do not remember a specific thing. Now,
But when she's saying, Kevin,
right, when she says,
what is she doing? Where is she?
I remember I'm leaving out this room. I'm just leaving.
She on the bed? She on the floor? She's standing next to where is she?
Standing there. She's standing by the door.
By the door.
I remember when I'm like, I'm just going. You know what I'm saying? I remember going to the door. Ready to go to the door. And I remember her just going like this and saying my name. You know what I mean? And I remember when she thought, I just don't want to talk to her. You know what I mean? I just don't care. Tired of having to wait all day.
When it gets bad, you leave her.
Still want to talk.
So we were able to determine the timeline of the crime by the video surveillance. So the motel surveillance show him leaving the parking lot. There were outside cameras. We were able to track his movements in the parking lot. We were able to find that he had gone across the street. There is a large convenience store / gas station, Wawa, which is a big staple here in the Philadelphia area. We were able to go to the Wawa food store, and they were more than cooperative with us and let us look through all their surveillance. We see him come into the store, buy some sandwiches, leave, go back over to the motel. We know he leaves the motel again. We see him go back in the direction of the Wawa. We look at the Wawa. We see him in there again. From what we can gather, while he's at the Wawa the second time, it kind of strikes him because he leaves but turns around, comes right back in, and he gets a coffee cup. And you can see him on the video with the coffee cup in his hand. And he walks up to the attendant at the register, and you see him pointing out into the gas station area and pointing at I assume telling her what gas pump he wants. Pays her $1 worth for gasoline. Walks out. You can see him at the gas pump. You can't see him pumping it in, but Then he walks away, and the surveillance of the motel, he walks back and he has the cup, a Wawa coffee cup in his hand.
What did you use to start the fire?
I don't remember starting the fire.
You told your mom you started the fire.
I don't remember telling my mom that. I don't remember telling my mom that. And why would I start a fire in the room that I'm in with her? It just don't make sense.
That's what we're trying to find out. But you did leave her behind then. She grabs you and you leave her behind.
She touched my arm.
With the room on fire. And you left her
What
behind.
happened? I don't remember saying.
What are you going to say to her when she says to you, why'd you leave me here?
I'm not going to say nothing to her. Because I know she never say nothing to me. Besides bad things.
He did not know that she had already passed away from her burns.
So, you know, what about her? Where's she at?
Take a sip of water. She didn't make it. She died.
She died.
Straight up, we've been straight up with you from the very beginning. We're showing you what we even know.
Tell us about your mistakes.
Kevin Small, pretty cold throughout the whole thing. There were times where he was crying, showing concern. We don't know if he was crying because he got caught. He was crying because he was really concerned. He did seem to have a genuine reaction when we did eventually tell him in the interview that she had died. He did cry, put his head down. It took a little while, a couple minutes to compose himself, but I don't know if he totally grasped what was in front of him at this point.
She's stuck in the fire, isn't she? Isn't she? Well, what did the rooms burn?
I don't know what burned, but I know she grabbed my arm, touched my arm, and said my name. She starts from it. I go like this, like, you know, just like you come in reality. You know what I mean?
You saw her burn?
No, I felt the heat when she arm started burning. I was like, it's like everything just, you come out of everything, you're not drunk, you're not everything, like, oh, you know what I'm saying?
You just said it. You're not drunk when that happens. When that pain hits it.
I mean, it's like.
So what do you see when she touches your hand?
I just see her hand on my arm right here saying my name.
And where are you standing?
I don't know. I'm in the room somewhere. And I know.
It took us quite a while of talking to him and convincing him, you know, this is the woman that you love and this is what happened. You know what happened. He kept trying to tell us he didn't know. He didn't know. He didn't know. Well, we explained to him, you were the only two people in the room. You're the only person who knows.
You're not telling us what you know. You know that you lost it. And something happened in that room, and a fire breaks up out in that room. She gets caught in that fire. You get caught in that fire. You get out, and she doesn't. She has to get out.
I have to get out when I feel like I have to get out. When I feel that I feel her hand touch my arm, her hand or whatever, and she said my name. It's like I would have had.
But all you care about is you at that point.
Yeah, I'm like, I gotta get out of here. That's it.
Right.
And it's self-preservation at that point.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Left her behind.
I love it. I thought I loved this girl. I feel like I do. Mm-hmm. But when she touched it, I felt that sting and that burn from my arm. Nothing mattered then. Right. I gotta go. That's all that mattered at that point. Right. Like, I gotta go.
Kevin never took active steps to hide anything that he did. But what he did do was what most people do once they're caught and in an interview. He tried to minimize any involvement he had. He tried to deflect how it happened. He came up with a story that he didn't do it. It was an accident.
She had, I think she smoked back now. She said, smoked back now. I smacked
Smack the cup.
yeah, smacked
Use a lit cigarette.
where my mouth. Okay. You know what I mean? I'm like, you know what I mean?
And eventually, as we chipped away at him, he eventually admitted to he called it splashing. We believe it to be throwing the gasoline on her. He blames that she had a cigarette in her mouth that caused it to go off. We believe that he ignited it, whether it be a lighter or more than likely a lighter. And once it went up, he realized what had happened and he got out of there.
You know what I mean? I just you know, I had I just lost it. I heard it ever. I'm eating up bros.
What caught on fire?
I was hauling hands. I'm leaving. I'm done. I'm just leaving. I feel this money's wasted. I'm just leaving. And next thing you know, I swear, man. And the last thing I remember was her touching my arm, saying my name.
I don't believe Mr. Small Stewart that it was an accident. I believe that he intentionally set her on fire. The science just doesn't work out. A cigarette being smoked and gasoline thrown onto you, the way he said he just knocked it over with his hand, would not ignite that fire. It just would not ignite that fire. Different examinations have taken place over time, and I've been a part of a few of them. If you take a cigarette and you would have a cup of gasoline and you put the cigarette, a lit cigarette, into a cup of gasoline, it will go out. It will not catch on fire, right? So if you have that same cigarette and it's on fire, and you hold it over the cup of gasoline where the vapors are coming up, and you hold it there for a few seconds, you can get a fire to ignite. But just throwing it at it, it would not ignite. Most of the time, it's going to go out.
She was on fire then, wasn't she? I don't know. Because I was leaving. And what was on fire? Behind me was on fire. Because I was going to the doors where you're at. And the bathroom's right there. There's a thing right here. You know, we've never been in that joint before. And then you walk that way. The window's back that way. The thing here on it. The bed right there is a pretty big bed. Right there. So I smacked.
And where'd you smack it from? Where was it coming? Was it a refrigerator or the TV? Or
TV was there.
Okay.
That I had on the table.
Was it a cup or a water bottle?
It was a cup. The beer was over there. I don't remember what it was. I don't know. By this point, I'm just, you know, you're in a rage. Just, I'm not even there. You know what I mean? I mean, I was drunk. There's no excuse. I'm just saying. I was drunk. So, like you said before, decision making, I'm just not thinking.
He would never admit that he went and actually purchased the gasoline. We told him, we had him on film, standing there, pumping the gas into... He just... I don't remember. He never would admit walking over and purchasing the gasoline. He acknowledged that it was there and it was on her and all that. He never once acknowledged that he remembered being the one to actually go get the gasoline.
He was trying to downplay what he did to make it look a little bit better. If he accidentally spilled gasoline on her, why didn't he help her? Why didn't he call 911? Why didn't he activate the fire alarm? She actually grabbed his arms and he pushed her away and didn't even help her. That is something that sticks with you because she was alive, and I just know how much pain she was going through. The housekeeper was saying she was screaming. The housekeeper saw the fire in the bed. It's just tragic. The poor lady did not deserve to die this way. I determined it's an arson, intentionally set. We talked together. We realized he was the only subject besides the victim that was in the room. His burns, his demeanor, his phone calls to his family, the video evidence. We put it all together. We both agreed, the police department, the fire department, Kevin Small was the actor that set this fire.
Well, Walter, I spoke with the victim's daughter tonight. She told me that Melissa Bacon Smith was a loving mother of 4, a grandmother of 7 who will be deeply missed. She was staying here at this motel with her boyfriend when, for some reason, in his words, he lost it. Hey, what happened? Tell us what happened.
Yeah, Kevin, what happened in that
You gotta step
hotel?
back, folks.
Lost it.
Step
That's
back.
all.
You lost it?
Step back.
What happened? What'd you do?
Step back.
Bad thing, man.
What's that?
Bad thing.
It was pretty outrageous. The idea that someone would pour gasoline on someone and then set them on fire kind of resonated with people to the fact of how cruel and how inhumane that could be. Everybody's burnt their fingers, or, somehow burnt their tongue drinking coffee. Just the sheer thought that you would be set on fire with gasoline and the majority of your body would be on fire at any given time. People related with the idea of how painful and agonizing that could be. The lead charge was criminal homicide, and then he was charged with multiple counts of recklessly endangering other people, which is he got 1 count for everybody that was in the motel. So 45 counts of that, arson, criminal mischief, all the residual crimes that would come with setting something on fire.
This crime was absolutely premeditated. This subject had to go to Wawa, pay for his gas, get a cup, fill the cup with gasoline, cross back across the street, walk back into the room, and within an hour, he walks out and the place goes up in flames and there's a woman dead. This was absolutely a premeditated crime.
I mean, the evidence is overwhelming. I don't think you get more chilling evidence seeing that there was Wawa video surveillance of him obtaining cups of gasoline. And of course, I know he tried to lend some alternative theory that it was, flung on the victim when she was smoking. And each step taken when you could have avoided taking those steps are just indications of the intent, the specific intent to kill that you need for first-degree murder. Outstanding police work from everyone involved, the initial responding officers, the detectives, the follow-through, the canine officer, everyone.
Pennsylvania still has the death penalty, and if it warrants it, we go for it. Whenever you have a trial of any crime, the family members and the victims always have to relive that crime. And they'd have to sit through a court case where a defense attorney would try to make it look like this guy didn't do it. If the family is okay with, allowing these people to plead guilty to a first-degree murder charge, which would give them life without parole, and we know they're never getting out, we think it's a win all the way around. Because who wants to victimize your victim or your family members over again? Nobody wants them to put anybody through that. There's already been one crime. It'd be another crime to force them to go through that again.
Faced with insurmountable evidence, Kevin Saul pleads guilty to all charges against him to avoid the death penalty.
That sentence, life plus 68 to 134 years is, the layered certainty that this family has that this defendant will die within the 4 walls of that state correctional facility. You're never going to be able to bring back this poor victim's life. You'll never fully bring the peace that this family deserves. But at least if they have the sense of justice, knowing that no one will ever be harmed by this man again, then I know our job was done.
As he was hauled away after court, Smalls apologized to his victim's family and told reporters jail is where he belongs.
This was a very difficult case to investigate for our detectives and for the prosecutors and for the firefighters, because when you think about how this happened, when you think about a person taking a cup of gasoline, throwing it on another human being and lighting them on fire, that's horrific, let alone what you have to see after the fire is put out. The damage, the destruction at the hotel, the person lying on the ground dead from burns and from smoke inhalation. It's a horrific scene. This affects investigators no matter how seasoned they are.
Of all the ones that I have been involved in, this was one that I never would have thought To have someone intentionally pour gasoline on someone and set them on fire, it leaves a mark and you remember it for the rest of your life.
There was 40-some guests in that hotel when the fire happened. We're lucky we don't have more people that were dead. I know, being a firefighter for 23 years and being burnt on the job, having burns, it's a lot of pain. For this young lady to have to live through that, even if it was only for a short period of time, she went through a lot of pain. And it does touch you. She did not die in that bed. She was awake. She got up. She tried to go to the bathroom to put the fire out. She tried to get outside. She didn't make it. She wound up falling dead in the room across the hallway. But she experienced a lot of pain, and I really do feel for her. To know the victim grabbed onto him and he pushed her away, that hits hard, right? That's a human life. It's just, it's sad, but I'm glad we were able to do our job and bring closure to the family.
And speaking about justice for the family, I mean, if it was served, that's a loaded question in my opinion. I don't think justice is ever served for someone who commits such a heinous crime against another human being. I honestly don't think there's any retribution for a person to do this to another person. So I don't think justice is ever going to be served. Justice will be served when he meets his maker.